We all sleep in bunk beds in the dormitory. His was right by the glass window. His was right by the glass window, so he could see outside rather well. We went to his bed, and what we saw, I still can't really understand. It was a giant ball of fire. They were a few feet apart, at least 100 meters between the trees. The flame fire thingy was just bouncing from one to another like it was no one's business. We looked for quite a few minutes until the fire eventually disappeared, and we all went back to bed entirely confused. I tried to watch it again on several occasions, but it never really happened anymore. I would stay up all night. Sorry if this doesn't make much sense. I wanted to be sure to get this story into you because it's so anomalous and makes no sense to me. What happened to Max in those woods? I don't think we'll ever know. Why did he lose the ability to speak? Was it just some health condition he already had, or did something more happen? Also, what the heck was that fireball bouncing tree from tree? None of this makes any sense to me the more I think about it.
Yeah, don't trust them fireballs jumping tree to tree. Thank you, Swamp Dweller. If you want more just like that, head on over to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and you can have literally thousands of stories at your fingertips for free. From the swamp to the UFOs, we got Josh Rutledge filling in for an ailing Tim James tonight on the UFO Report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
You wear glasses, Josh, just like I do.
I do.
You ever get that eyelash hair on the side of your eye that just itches the heck out of your nose and your eye, and you cannot get rid of it? It's like it's permanently there, and you rub it, you scratch it, and it never goes away.
Never goes away.
Hate that.
Or the tear duct that just randomly starts burning for no reason. Just,
Oh, very true. Very, very true. It's ridiculous. One of the things I hate about wearing glasses. My eyes are getting so weak here. I can't even get I can't even wear sunglasses anymore.
I find myself now doing the thing where I hold my phone away from my face so that I can read what's on the screen. It's so fantastic getting old, isn't it?
Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But hey, thank you for filling in for Tim tonight, who is ailing quite a bit. And he was sick all weekend. Couldn't even come out and play with the Sasquatch yesterday. We're going to go out and couldn't come play because he was too sick. So I appreciate you jumping on in.
No worries. Happy to be here again.
Big news coming out of the UFO world today, Josh, is Lue Elizondo started his press run on his new book, Imminent. Now, we've been talking about this book for the last few months, especially over the last couple of weeks, and it's getting ready for release officially tomorrow. Did you sign up to get a copy?
I did. I signed up for the audiobook. That way I can listen to it when I take my kids to and fro school. But it's already been, it's queued up, and as soon as it releases, it'll download into my Audible, and I'll be good to go.
Oh, see, I ordered the book. Maybe I should have done the audio book. But apparently, some people were trying to buy bootleg copies, and I credit After Hours host Rob G on this, because they bought it. It had the cover, and they opened up the pages, and all the pages were blank. Apparently, for that. Somebody made some quick cash on that one.
At least it wasn't filled with a bunch of AI nonsense. I mean, they could have done that.
Yeah, you could have put a bunch of Chat GPT BS in there. So, anyways, former Pentagon official Lue Elizondo appeared on CBS Mornings to discuss his new book, Imminent, where he claims the top government scientists have been studying non-human craft for decades. This disclosure has reignited discussions about unidentified aerial phenomena, with some believing the government has been concealing information about these phenomena since at least 1947. Elizondo's revelations include the descriptions of Type 3 spheres, and other orbs interacting with larger craft, suggesting advanced technology or intelligence. While some are calling for more transparency in research, skepticism persists regarding the authenticity of these claims. The discussions highlight a real divide between believers advocating for disclosure and skeptics questioning the narrative presented by Elizondo and similar fingers. What's your thoughts on all this?
So, first of all, I think we really need to call out people who identify as skeptics as opposed to non believers, because I'm skeptical, but I'm also still a believer. I'm skeptical in that whenever I see a case or something I'm investigating, I come at it first from a skeptic's point of view. I look at it and see, is there anything prosaic that I can explain? But the people who are against Lue and his book and anything that he has said since he came on the scene are really people who are just against the entire idea of his narrative. And so, in that regard, they're non believers, not necessarily skeptics. A skeptic still has an opportunity to see the evidence and change their viewpoint. They're non believers. But also, I think that, Lue has been consistent in his messaging since he came on the scene, each time maybe providing a little bit more insight into the information that he was privy to. I'm really interested to see what's in his book, to see if he actually names any additional sighting locations, recovery locations, any of that kind of stuff. But I mean, people who are completely against the narrative will continue to be against the narrative, and there's no way to sway them one way or the other.
Now, here's an interesting part about this whole Elizondo thing. Immediately after CBS went to X to say they have Elizondo on, all of the skeptics literally jumped on that post and were tearing it apart. You guys didn't do your homework. You didn't ask the right questions. Why didn't you ask him about being the czar of torture at Guantanamo Bay? These people need to realize the mainstream media doesn't know how to ask questions about this subject. I have said this for years, as a former member of the mainstream media who my job was to ask those questions. But when you get a bunch of hosts who are on a time limit, who've probably had the questions already prepped for them, they're not going to know the details. None of them have read the book, Josh.
No.
It's just a publicity stunt for about 7 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, I was actually pretty shocked that he was able to get on CBS as a part of his media tour, because I thought that was a good indication that maybe, people are going to start to treat the subject a little more seriously. He's not just appearing on podcasts and YouTube shows and things like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was when I used to live in Kentucky and I had my podcast there, I was interviewed by some local morning shows and things, and they would always ask, like you said, questions that had been pre-written for them about us or a case that we were looking into. We always had to provide that information up front, to them so that they could have questions ready to go so that the interview would flow smoothly. But yeah, I mean, they're not hardball questions. It's for lack of a better word, it's a puff piece for kind of free advertisement. That's all it is.
Yeah. I mean, I saw one person who's usually highly critical of Elizondo saying, well, why didn't you ask this? Why did you not ask any tough questions? Why was it just all softballs? And you're right. It's a fluff ball piece. It's not an in-depth journalistic review. This is what they do to help kill time. And that's all it is. It's killing time Ask you about the UFOs. Ask about the little green men.
Right.
Wow, how did you find this? Why did you do this? This is so entertaining. I mean, we can do it right now. We could break down the entire interview
Yeah.
without even watching it if you haven't.
Yeah. I also say I will congratulate CBS for not playing the X-Files theme at the intro of the interview, because that's been the staple for every time any type of news channel or news media talks about this subject for so many years.
I get that. I get that very, very much. And, it was nice. And, but we can't expect much on the media tour.
Mm-hmm.
We do have to realize that. He's not going to be hit with a lot of in-depth, deep questions on this. And unfortunately, the days of those long-form Larry King style of interviews, don't go very well. Now,
Yeah.
unless he gets on, I hate to say this, but unless he gets on something like Dr. Phil or, one of those type of shows, even Oprah, it's not going to be a long form interview by any means.
No, I mean, in all actuality, he probably even came prepped with knowing the questions they were going to ask and the responses that he was going to give. Just enough to entice you to want to read the book, right? Because, I mean, ultimately, that's what this is all about. It's about book sales for him, his appearance. So enough to get you to want to read the book, enough to get you to think, if you've never heard of him before, this guy's knowledgeable. He seems to know what he's talking about. Maybe I'll give the book a shot. Maybe, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's very much just, throw a couple of keywords, some catchphrases around non-human intelligence, so on and so forth, just to kind of hit the high levels and then move on.
With less than 24 hours until his book comes out, what do you think is going to be in there? Because there hasn't been a real deep, in-depth breakdown. Everybody's waiting for the book. What do you think's in there?
I've seen a couple of quotes that have been tossed around from his CBS interview and other things. It reads like he's going to at least talk about his belief that scientists have done research on what they know and what they've uncovered, and they know enough to say that humans didn't build these things. Now, if you watch the CBS interview, which I did earlier today, there's a part where, they read a statement from the Pentagon that says, there's been no proof or no evidence that it supports extraterrestrials as the source of these craft. As someone who likes to read between the lines, I think it's interesting that Grush, Lue, others are saying non-human. The Pentagon, though, said no evidence of extraterrestrial, which would imply that maybe it's not extraterrestrial. Maybe there's another species that's living alongside us here on Earth and always has been, and that's the origin of a lot of these craft. So it's not necessarily the Pentagon. If the Pentagon had come out and said there's no evidence of non-human builders or whatever, that'd be one thing. But they specifically said extraterrestrial, which still leaves the door open for a lot of other things outside of extraterrestrial.
And the other thing that came out was the danger of it all. That he continues to play the demons card, the aliens are bad card, the real Tom DeLonge type of answer that Peter Levenda had put in DeLonge's head long before he met Elizondo back in 2017. This goes contrary to what many other experiencers have said, but that may be the evidence that they have and are hiding. We don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts on the threat narrative and the demonic side that humanity is in trouble here?
So, I mean, on the threat narrative, I fully expect somebody in government to propose anything that they're unaware of or unable to identify as a threat, because until it can be identified as a non-threat, you have to assume that it is a threat, right? I mean, that's the MO of the military and I think intelligence communities. And so, especially from somebody who's active military or actively in that security space in the government, they're going to pitch everything as a potential threat because that's going to drive funding. I think Lue, though, is interesting in this area because he's no longer active military and he's no longer active in his role, and he has no potential, no influence on whether or not some investigation gets funded. So for him to be outside of that area yet still think about and talk about these things as being a threat, it really raises a question for me as to, is he just he's functioned in that mind space for so long that until it's identified it's a threat, even in his civilian life, or he has evidence that supports that there is some sort of a danger. As far as like whether or not there is a danger, I think that there's a possibility of there could be good non-human intelligence. There could be bad non-human intelligence. There could be those that are indifferent and just really don't care one way or the other. And so again, I mean, we don't know what the government potentially knows. And so, there are bad people and there are good people, there are indifferent people. So stands to reason, at least from our viewpoint perspective as humans, there may be those that are bad aliens or bad non-human intelligence. And so maybe that's the evidence, like you said, that the government has that they're kind of keeping hidden.
Well, you know what? I agree with you on that. They are hiding something. We don't know what they're hiding. We don't know why they're hiding it unless they're trying to play with the toys that are out there. So it is going to be interesting. We're going to continue this talk because somebody on X by the name of Harold Malmgren, you may not know the name, but he's very popular in politics in Washington, D.C. He is now jumping into the UFO world. We'll get to him next on Spaced Out Radio's UFO Report. Josh Rutledge filling in for an ailing Tim James tonight, doing a great job, an admirable job on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We'll be right back.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Good morning, Castle Dude. Hi, Tokeland. How are you? Yeah, this is, I just found this tonight, so it's probably going to be fresh to you, and I'll just get your comment on it.
Sure.
And I'll read a few of his tweets coming up here. And then it'll be good. It'll be good. All right. And thanks for doing this tonight, man.
Yeah. Yeah, you messaged me earlier and like, what are you going to do tonight at 11? I was like, I was going to sleep, but I mean, I can sleep later, so.
I hear you. I'm going to be sleeping later too. And in fact, I can't wait to get to bed. Can't wait.
I've got a pretty good quote here out of Lue's book too. We can work that in somewhere.
All right, we will. We can do that, my man. All right. We got about 3.5 minutes here, my man.
Okay.
Excuse me.
So you bought the physical book?
I did. I like having a hard copy.
Yeah, I'll probably end up getting the physical too, because I'll hear stuff in the audio that I want to highlight until I get the physical to do that. But
my book's already been delayed
oh,
till like September 2nd or something like that.
so you got to jump on the Kindle or the audiobook.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have to buy the audiobook too. Bastards, get me twice.
It's a relatively short book, like 320 pages. So, of course, I don't know what size font that is, but
I don't know either. It's going to be interesting.
I know the physical book size is 6x9, so that's not a big book either.
Imagine how much. I would like to know how much was redacted.
Yeah. Well, that's, yeah. If we get into that, you know, I think this is all part of the plan anyway, so we can get into that side of things.
All right. Let us. We got about 90 seconds here, just over 90 seconds.
Okay. Did you get all your technical stuff worked out?
Yeah, I did today, which is nice. Feeling better about that. Can actually do a show without my computers freezing or losing signal, which is nice. Bear with me here for a second. Hey, big thank you to Deboruni ×4, T-Bone ×3, Backspin, Ukrainian Anita, and Steven in the UK for the super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate the love and support. Hi, Simon the Likeable. How you doing? Good to see you in the chat room. Also, quick reminder to you, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. None. So go check it on out. We got great new stuff in there for you. Probably still need a couple more Bigfoot shirts. We'll make them as we go along. We will. So thank you for that. We got about 17 seconds.
You got this one, Dave?
What's that? No, I don't have that one. I'll find it and I'll make it for you.
That's mine. That's one for my old podcast.
Oh, nice. Here we go, everybody. All right, let's go to the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us on in and enjoying the show with us. I want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, we got our good friend Josh Rutledge here. We've taken on the Lue Elizondo story, his book coming out pretty quick here, a matter of hours now, Josh, and you wanted to make a comment on that.
Yeah, I just came across a quote that somebody pulled, I guess, out of maybe an early release or something, maybe, but it says, this is from his book. It says, while there are valid reasons for secrecy around some aspects of UAP, I do not think humanity should be kept in the dark about the fundamental fact that we are not alone intelligent. We are not the only intelligent life in the universe. So I mean, if that's kind of the direction that he's going in for this book, is just a kind of an introduction, if you will, for those who are open to the idea that there is something else other than humans that have the intelligence to be able to create these craft and pilot them, whether they be in person or remote or whatever the case may be. I think it'll be an interesting read for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, and I'm also looking forward to whether or not he names names.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one for me is, will he drop even one name? You know what I'm saying? All I need is one name just to advance the topic and the conversation a little bit more. But here is a name for you, Josh.
Okay.
All right. And our audience out there. Do you know who Harold Malmgren is?
No.
Well, he was an advisor to Presidents Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, and Ford, as well as many other global leaders. Now, this is from his X profile. He's focused on trade, markets, geopolitics, and strategic security. All of a sudden, a few hours ago, he started tweeting about Lue Elizondo. He goes, I don't know you, but have had respected friends urge me to look into your book. I went further and urged everyone to pay attention. Seems my boost aroused a huge Twitter response. Good luck with your attempt to raise visibility of this critically important subject at this time. He has also went out off and tweeted, I don't know Luis Elizondo and have no connection with his book's publication. The contents had been disclosed previously, and I simply thought time has come for the rest of humanity to start thinking about what it means for understanding of the world in which we live. Now, of course, the Twitterverse or the Xverse, whatever you want to call it, is going nuts over this in the UFO world. He goes, read my words carefully. I was never directly involved in UAP research. What I learned was sketchy, slightly illuminated by Bissell, as he felt I needed a heads up in case the subject ever came up in my meetings with presidents or others. I swore secrecy to him, not under any law. Some responders to my X messages about Elizondo's upcoming book are probing my direct knowledge of government UAP research. I never directly worked on UAPs, nor indirectly used such research in my own work. Therefore, I cannot be treated as a source of confirmation of UAP info. He goes on to say, closest I've ever come to potential involvement in a major cover-up was with a request from DoD General Counsel that I take over Ellsberg's project from Dan, I don't know who Dan is, while he was dismissed. I declined without hesitation. As it turned out, days later, he'd already given the report to the New York Times. Or he goes, I am told Kelly Johnson, worked for NASA, was also a genius of skunkworks and ran it. But reporting to Bissell, I was not there, cannot confirm their formal relationship. These tweets go on and on, including this one that I found interesting. 60 plus years ago, I was provided highest level classifications to lead DoD work on nuclear weapons and anti-missile defense, informally briefed on other world technologies by CIA's Richard Bissell, who had been in charge of Skunk Works, Area 51, Los Alamos, etc., but sworn to secrecy. This is amazing that this guy, I mean, he's got to be in his late 70s, early 80s at least, that he is all of a sudden taking on the UFO world with his own information. And it sounds like, just by reading his tweets, that he doesn't even have an NDA.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if, well, so I don't know. I think that maybe my gut reaction to this gentleman coming forward is he is someone who has governmental security, intelligence bona fides, who is coming forward to support Lue in the release of his book. He says that he doesn't have any direct knowledge, so he can't be a source, but he believes in what Lue is putting out there. So it's a I'm of the mindset that all of this is a plan, and whether or not some of these players are aware that they are pieces on the board in this plan, like whether or not Lue realizes he is, or this gentleman Harold realizes he is, I still think it's a plan. And I think it goes back to the 1960s, the Brookings report, that looked at a number of different things around the space age. But one of the things it looked at is whether or not the human population, specifically Americans, were ready to be told if they were to discover human or non-human life elsewhere, like on another planet or somewhere else on our planet. And they basically, the report concluded that they weren't ready to be told. In my opinion, from that point forward, it became a slow, methodical, purposeful disclosure to bring us up to desensitize us. Look at movies and TVs shows spiked. You got Star Trek in 66, Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 77. You got Star Wars in 78. There's all this spike in this very alien type interaction where we've got all these aliens that some of them are bipedal, some of them are not. And there's just the whole idea of the Galactic Council and all this kind of stuff from Gene Roddenberry. So it is, in my opinion, that Lue is a part of this. And so if Lue names anyone in his book, if he names specific locations, if he names specific people, Lue is most undoubtedly under an NDA. And so the only way he would do that legally and not face repercussions is if it was signed off on by the government. So if he names any of that stuff in his book, in my opinion, that's the government officially saying, yep, this is true.
By the way, Harold Malmgren is 89 years old.
Wow.
And Dave Beatty, famous filmmaker, is asking, what does he mean by informally briefed on other world technologies by the CIA's Richard Bissell? This just opened up a giant can of worms.
Yep.
And Science Bob, as everybody knows Science Bob around here, says Bissell was a big deal at the NRO. So this is pretty incredible stuff going on. But to get to your point here, maybe you want me to read this to you or not, but John Greenwald from the blackvault.com actually has a letter provided by Lue Elizondo getting clearance from the Department of Defense to write his book.
There you go.
Would you like to hear it?
Go ahead.
All right. It says, Dear Mr. Elizondo, this is in response to your May 30th, 2023 correspondence requesting public release clearance for the manuscript titled Elizondo Project. The manuscript submitted for publication security review is cleared as amended for public release. Enclosed are copies of the clear and amended manuscript's pages. Amendments are clearly identified with blackout text. Where applicable, additional text provides recommended alternative language for some of the amendments. I enclosed also a stamped copy of the first page of the manuscript. The amendments project from release for non-public information, which can include classified national security information, controlled unclassified information, operational security information, exported controlled information, and unclassified information that may individually or in aggregate lead to the compromise of classified information. The amendments may not be exclusive to the Department of Defense, as manuscript reviews often require consultation with other federal agencies who own information on that manuscript. Now, this goes on a number of paragraphs, but it really goes to show how handcuffed he was writing this book. And this was signed by George R. Sturgis Jr., okay, chief. I don't know what that means. Okay, but it closes with this. This office requires that you add the following disclaimers prior to publishing the manuscript. The views expressed in this publication are those of the author and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Department of Defense or the U.S. government. The public release clearance of this publication by the Department of Defense does not imply Department of Defense endorsement or factual accuracy of the material. Interesting. So they're giving him permission to do this
with redacted content.
With redacted content that they refuse to say is any of theirs.
Right. And I think that's the general position of the U.S. government, is that, yes, you can use this, but we're not going to say that it's ours. I mean, when they came forward in 2018, I think, after the 2017 release, 2018, 2019, and the Pentagon officially said, yep, those are our videos. That's the first time, I think, in the history of the UFO topic that the government has ever come forward and officially claimed videos or any type of evidence as being officially captured by the U.S. government. So again, this is where I think that, this is all some sort of a big, chess game, if you will, that somebody else is playing, and Lue just happens to be one of the pieces on the board. And there's some information release happening here as a part of a quote unquote disclosure. And so, one of the questions that I asked to my listeners on my podcast 2 years ago or something was, what do you consider disclosure? Because I think everybody has a different opinion of what disclosure looks like. And so for all we know, we're knee deep or chest deep in disclosure right now. Will we ever get to the point where the president of the United States goes and does a Oval Office speech where, they say, we have been in contact with aliens, and here, by the way, they've given us the keys to clean energy. I don't know that we'll ever get to that point. So really, you have to evaluate for yourself, what does disclosure look like? In my opinion, the Pentagon saying, we removed some stuff from your manuscript, but for the most part, you're cleared to go ahead and publish this. And if that manuscript contains, or if the book contains names, locations, any type of checkable data, that's the Pentagon saying yes, even though they're not officially saying yes.
I think that's a very smart way to put it. I really do believe that that's a very smart way to put it. And, we also look at it too, as people delve in. This is one of those books where every critic and every supporter of Elizondo's are going to break down literally every word that he says. Every sentence is going to be broken down. Every paragraph and chapter are going to be broken down. This is a book that is going to cause about the next 6 months of content for us as this goes forward. Are you looking forward to that?
I really am. I'm looking forward to see what FOIAs, the Black Vault, end up with coming out of this book. What information they're going to be able to go to track down. I'm also very interested, being that Lue is an intelligence guy. Is there potential that there's some sort of code embedded in his book, in the pages of his book, where like every third word, or like his book serves almost as a cipher for uncovering other information that's out there waiting to be found.
We got 5 minutes to go here before we got to say goodnight to you, and I'm going to change subjects here quickly. There was, outside of 29 Palms, Ridgecrest, California, where we broadcast on KZFX. Hi, Chuck. How you doing, buddy? a major UFO sighting, or what people perceive to be a UFO sighting, almost looking like a smaller version of the Phoenix lights. It was 6 or 7 lights in a boomerang formation, and what looks to be a white orb spinning around in the sky before dropping down after the big craft jumped down. I don't know if you saw the video or not.
I have not.
Okay. Well, if you go on YouTube or TikTok or wherever, it's right there. But to me, when you get, there are certain places where I don't think, or I should say, I think we need to be careful about calling it UFOs, especially if it's happening in a Skunk Works Black Project area, much like Palmdale, Edwards Air Force Base, into that area, which reaches over to Area 51. Just your overall thoughts on that.
You know, just as a MUFON field investigator, it's one of the things that, you know, I run into when I'm looking at cases. You know, I have to take that first view or that first pass looking at it from a, what could we potentially explain this as? And then only after I'm able to rule out every prosaic, potential solution for whatever it was, am I able to settle on either, insufficient data or an unknown or whatever the case may be. So I agree that there are a lot of things. Honestly, I haven't seen the video, so I can't say for sure, but just saying in general, there's a lot of things that are prosaic that are out there. There's drones, there's, military flares, which I know was an oftentimes used an example of or reason for the Phoenix lights. I wasn't here in Phoenix at that time, so I didn't experience it, but I've talked to many people who have had experiences, and they would not describe them as flares. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of prosaic examples out there for what things can be. And I think it's okay to take that first skeptical look. What could it be? Check apps like Flight Radar and see if there were aircraft in the air at the time. Check Stellarium and Heavens Above and see if there are satellites that were flying by. And if you go through everything that's possible and you rule everything else out, then whatever's left over has to be was it Sherlock Holmes? If you rule out every possible solution, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
All right, this one comes, I'm going to show you a video here. I know our radio audience can't see it. We only got about 2 minutes, from a YouTube channel called Casper Site. And he's breaking down the video. And if you watch the middle here, you could see that it almost looks like a reflection of police lights in the sky. The video continues on. I mean, it's got yellows, it's got greens and pinks and reds and blues and purples and white. And then there's another light that kind of pops up from behind the hill. Now, apparently over that hill, that's where a lot of the test ranges are. Okay. And that's where we have to be a little bit remiss. But this light seems to dive on down, and then this orb seems to shoot on down. Now, to me, this looks like it would almost be some sort of drone shooting on down. And I don't know, man. Just your thoughts.
I mean, just the lights in the sky were interesting. It did look to be separated, divided lights. I mean, that right there, to me, looks like a drone show. That's what that looks like to me.
It does look like a drone show to me. So, I don't know if it's drones. All I know is that the area, there's a lot of black projects going on in that area. And I know everybody wants UFOs. We want that next smoking gun footage. Okay, but I don't think that one's it.
No, there's a lot of activity happening in Tucson, Arizona right now, over the mountains. A lot of people are going out at night and on night vision cameras and stuff, catching orbs flying over the mountains. Sometimes you can see them with the naked eye. So, there does seem to be, at a minimum, I think that there's an uptick in people that are willing to look up, right? And
Yes.
so as long as we have more and more people willing to A, look up, and B, report it when they see it, we're in the right direction.
Josh Rutledge, thank you for filling in on the UFO report. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Ball, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks, everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, and the Space Travelers Club. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right. We are clear, my man. Let's
All right. Well, thank you.
appreciate you jumping on in.
So
That was
until
fun.
next time.
Of course. We'll keep you on standby, my man.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good
All right,
night.
you take care, okay? Good night. Josh Rutledge, everybody. All right. Hello, Deborah.